All right, welcome everyone to our parent workshop on the DIBELS Assessment platform. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Mrs. Esperanza, and I am President Avenue's Categorical Program Advisor, Title I Coordinator, and Targeted Student Population Advisor. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I'm hoping that from this workshop, you'll be able to walk away with a lot of tools for you to utilize with your child at home. So before we get started, I wanted to do a quick check-in with everyone. On a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being the most, how much energy do you have right now? I know we're already at the tail end of the day and most people might be a little tired. I know for me right now, I'm feeling at a 3, almost down to a 2. But I think what's keeping me going is knowing that there's a lot of parents here that want to learn more about their children and what they're doing at school. All right, I see that we have quite a few different responses. I think a lot of you guys are feeling tired. It is already 5 o'clock, but I do appreciate you coming in. And just know that this check-in is one of these social emotional learning strategies that as teachers use in the classroom, just to see and get a feel for where our children are at. So that way, if we know someone is probably not quite at a 5 and they're at a 1, maybe we might want to give them a little grace or trying to, get them a little more pepped up. Or as for you, if you find yourself at a 1, maybe you need to take a chance, take a little break and breathe a little. So that way you can get back to having your fully recharged battery. All right, thank you so much for participating in that. So for today's workshop, these are our participant learning goals. Hopefully by the end of today's workshop, you will be able to gain an understanding of the DIBELS assessment and the phonemic awareness, literacy, and reading skills that it will assess. We are also hoping that you will learn different ways you can support your child at home for each skill assessed in DIBELS. This is our agenda for today. The first thing I want to do is give you a quick introduction on what are DIBELS, what is that assessment, and explain what it is and what the components are. I'm also going to be talking about the different skills that are measured. And then part 3 is the I do, we do, you do. And in this section, I'm going to show you what skills are measured and how the assessment looks like. And then we're going to practice utilizing those assessments together as a group. And the you do is going to be activities that you can do on your own at home with your child. So you're going to come home with a lot of resources. And the final part of my agenda are questions. So if anybody has any additional wonderings about the DIBELS platform, I'm here to help you out. So what are DIBELS? DIBELS are measures that help teachers and schools determine how students are performing on important phonemic awareness and reading skills. DIBELS stands for Dynamic Indicators of Basic Early Literacy Skills. So at President Avenue, students in grades K through 2, grades 3 to 5 is optional, are going to be assessed on DIBELS at the beginning of the year, BOY, middle of the year, also known as MOY, and end of year, EOY. I wanted to point out these acronyms for you because your teachers, I know parent conferences are coming up in a few weeks, will be utilizing them a lot. So that way you can come in feeling confident in knowing what they're referring to. So on this slide, you're going to see the different literacy skills that are measured in the DIBELS platform. So here on the left, you'll see the big ideas. It will be measuring phonemic awareness, phonics, reading fluency, vocabulary, and reading comprehension. And here in the middle is a quick description on what each of these big ideas are. And then what DIBELS measures are going to see how well your child is performing in each area. So for phonemic awareness, that refers to your child's ability to hear and manipulate sounds in spoken words only. And these skills are great predictors of future reading success. And the measures that will tell us more about phonemic awareness is our first sound fluency, as well as phoneme segmentation fluency. The phonic skills that are measured, well, that refers to the ability to learn the individual sounds in a spoken language and your child's ability to map those sounds to specific written letters in the English language. And the measures that are used for this platform are nonsense word fluency and word reading fluency. And these are actually done hand in hand. And you'll get to see that in today's presentation. Other skills measured for the reading fluency, that's your child's ability to read text accurately and automatically. Vocabulary is also assessed as they are reading fluently, as well as their reading comprehension. So I'm going to start our workshop with letter naming fluency. And this is something that our kindergarteners and first graders are assessed on. Letter naming fluency assesses a student's ability to say the names of upper and lowercase letters in the English alphabet. This skill is a strong predictor of future reading success in young children. So now that you know what that is, I thought it would be neat for you guys to see what it looks like. And this is the I do portion of our lesson. So I'm going to show you what I would do as an administrator of the DIBELS assessment.
Here are some letters. Tell me the names of as many letters as you can. When I say begin, start here and go across the page. Point to each letter and tell me the name of that letter. If you come to a letter you don't know, I'll tell it to you. Put your finger on the first letter. Ready? Begin.
T N S Y I P D E Y V R.
So I'm going to pause it there. I just wanted you guys to get a glimpse of what that looks like. So as you can see in the video, when your child is given the letter name fluency test, they have a sheet filled with rows of letters, both uppercase and lowercase, and your child has to name as many letters as they can in a minute. So just know that in letter naming fluency, they're not worrying about the sounds. All they're worrying about for this particular assessment is the name of the letter. So what I wanted to do next, this is the we do. So we did the I do, now we get to do the we do. The we do part of this lesson is when we get to try it together. So what I have here is a copy of slides that I made, and you're actually going to get your hands on this as well, that we can practice with our own children. So for example, if you put this slide up or flashcard up for your child, they would just say the letter name. So we'd say E, A, D, and then you keep going. But why I wanted to show you this is if I go out of my presentation mode and show you, you can see here I have a bunch of different letters on different slides. And if you want to use this digital version with your child, all you have to do to mix it up is just shift the letters around. And that way it becomes different each time you play the game. I know as a mom, we had so many different flashcards that it started piling up at my house. So if you are computer savvy and you want to use the digital version, this is a great tool. And let me go back here. So with that, you probably are wondering, well, Mrs. Esperanza, how can I get a copy of that? In the beginning of the presentation, I put in the chat a link to this presentation. So that way you guys have access to the resources that I'm showing. So now it's time for the you do. We did the I do, we did the you do, we do, and now it's time for you do. These are some of the things you can do at home to support letter naming fluency. So in the presentation that I put in the chat, you'll have a copy of these slides, and in the slides, you just click directly on this link, and you'll see that it'll take you directly to my flashcard fun. And I have a variety of games here listed so your child can master lowercase and capital letters. as well as the corresponding letter cards for you to cut out. And this is like a fun activity. You can have your child cut it, you can cut it out together, you can color it, you could do whatever you like. It's all for you to print out and enjoy. Another resource that I made for you is the digital flashcards. So if you so like the cards that I just showed you, this will take you to a forced copy. And then once you open it, you'll see that you'll have all the letter cards that I have available for you. I also included one of my favorite letter sound videos. So if your child is still working on the sounds of letters, this is very catchy and it'll review all the sounds. And as I mentioned before, if you want to mix it up, all you do is click, drag, and then you can mix up the letters so that way your child has a different string of letters to practice with. Something else that I included in your resources to practice letter name fluency is the letter lists. So this is very similar to what they'll see on the DIBELS assessment. And you can time your child for a minute and see how many letters they can read. I've also put in some tips, like you could go on letter hunts at home, have your child find letters in the real world, like on cereal boxes, billboards, or books. I also have links to letter name and sound videos. So if you click on this, it'll take you to a whole slew of videos that practice letter identification and sounds. And I also have a video where you can practice letter name fluencies in fun ways. So those are those resources for you to try out with your home. I really hope you get to utilize them all. I try to give you guys a bunch of different ones so that way your kids don't get bored doing the same thing over and over again. Okay, so now that we did letter name fluency, we're going to go to our next component of the DIBELS, which is phoneme segmentation fluency, also known as PSF. This is where students identify all of the sounds spoken in a word. You might be wondering what that means, so I am going to go ahead and show you what that looks like from a teacher's point of view.
I'm going to say a word. After I say it, you tell me all the sounds you hear in the word. So if I say the word miss, you would say is. If I say the word low, you would say oh. Let's try one. Tell me the sounds in the word am. Tell me any sounds you hear.
Oh, oh,
The sounds in the word am are Your turn. Tell me the sounds in the word am. Tell me any sounds you hear.
ah,
Okay, here is your first word. For.
uh,
Here. Who.
ooh,
On.
Uh.
Mm. Wave.
ooh, a,
So I'm going to pause the video there. You can see that whenever the child said the correct sound, the table would highlight it in blue, but if he made a mistake, it would come out as red on the top. So for example, the one that he did get right was wave. He said w a v, and that's why he got 3 lines that were in blue underneath. So this is a very tricky skill for a lot of students to learn because it's very rare that you are asked to say the sounds that you hear in a word. I know sometimes when we work with our kids, the first time doing this, we'll say the sounds in fun, and then they'll just say the word fun because they just want to repeat you. So having them stop, really pay attention to those different phonemes or sounds is a really high level skill for these little ones. And that's why all the practice that you can give them will benefit them in the long run. So with that being said, I wanted to do the we do portion where we get to practice this together because even as adults, it's like a different way of thinking. So I want to make sure that you guys understand as well. So I have a video to show you that does a great job of breaking down phoneme segmentation, but it also kind of warms you up by segmenting word parts, like compound words. They I think they do pancake, so they break that up and then they go into the segmentation part. So I just wanted to give you that as you watch it, so you don't get confused. So get ready. We're going to segment it together. And, something that I want you to try that we do with our kids is we use our choppers to say the sound. So if we have the word fun, we would say, uh, mm, fun. And that lets them know that we're chopping up the word into sounds. So we can try that as we go and watch the video. You can even also use your fingers to keep track of sounds, which I think they show in the video too. So we'll do both. Here we go.
Let's learn segmenting words. To segment words, we take a word and say each phoneme or sound. Before we jump into segmenting words, let's start with words we hear within a compound word. What are two words that you hear in pancake? Do you hear pan and cake? Let's try another one. Butterfly. Butter and fly are the two words. How about toothbrush? Tooth and brush. Let's do basketball. The two words are basket and ball. If that was easy for you, you're ready for segmenting words. Now, let's see if we can segment each sound in a word. We'll start with short words.
Okay, get your choppers ready.
B, E. That has two sounds. Let's say the sounds that we hear in T.
Wait.
E. I hear two sounds
Get
again.
the two sounds.
What sounds do you hear in dog? D. Ah. B. Dog has three sounds.
So that's us practicing. I know it seems a little silly, but I always feel like it's always good to try ourselves. So that way when we practice with our children, you'll feel more comfortable and make sure we're doing it correctly. So as promised, I know we did the I do. You saw what it looked like on the teacher's part. We did it together, and now it's time for the you do. What can you do to support from home? So some things you can do is have your child say the sounds in a word when you have free time. For example, when you're going on a drive and you want them to practice their phoneme segmentation fluency, you could say, "Hey, Sally, can you say the sound in sun?" And then just have them say the sounds. And even when you're going for a walk, you could see something and you could say, "Hey, look, let's talk about the sounds in the word slide." That one's a hard one. And they could say slide for the fourth sounds. Another way you can support from home is have them practice phoneme segmentation with these videos. So I have a list of or a library of videos. This one's one of my favorite just because I'm a huge Disney fan. It tries to get your child's attention by using characters they're familiar with. For example, here they use Slinky to do the sounds in dog. And then Mrs. Potato Head, they use lips. So that's another resource I have linked for you. I also have lists of words that in case maybe you're not comfortable with just coming up with words off the top of your head, I have the words ready for you and I have them so that they get harder and harder. So you can see here, they start with CVC words. That's where it's a consonant, vowel, consonant, where they can sound it out. And then it goes on to digraphs, and those are two letters that make one sound, like sh. The SH makes the sh sound. And then more blends. So that resource is there for you. And those are just some ways you can practice phoneme segmentation. Okay. So our next topic is nonsense word fluency. Nonsense word fluency is when students are given a sheet of paper with nonsense words and are asked to read them aloud or say the letter sounds. Students are given 1 minute to read or sound out as many words as they can. So let's see what this looks like.
At this word. It's a make-believe word. Watch me read the word. Ah, ha. I can say the sounds of the letters, ah, or I can read the whole word, ha. Your turn to read a make-believe word. Read this word the best you can. Make sure you say any sounds you know.
ooh, mm, um.
That's right. The sounds are or lum. Here are some more make-believe words. Start here and go across the page. When I say begin, read the words the best you can. Point to each letter and tell me the sound or read the whole word. Put your finger on the first word. Ready? Begin.
Tib, rep, hab, tip, tut, nub, sip, dat.
So I'm going to pause it right there. So I feel like you guys got the gist of what's going on. So basically, he's given a list of all these nonsense words, and he's being asked to either sound it out or read the whole word altogether. Just know that if he sounds out the words, he'll still get points, but if he reads the whole word, he gets more points because he was able to make that whole word connection. And also it makes him read things a little faster, so his score gets a little higher. Um, the reason why it's important for you guys to know about this is because I find a lot of students really struggle with this, especially when they're readers, because when they read a word that's a nonsense, like the word nup, they'll kind of pause and go, nup? What's that? And then as they're thinking, it's taking away from their time and their scores are lower. So it's good to let your child know about the nonsense words and to just keep reading so that way their scores are higher. Um, and what I did do is I have this video for us to try together because it is kind of tricky, especially as a reader, to read nonsense words because it kind of makes you pause and think. So let's see how we can do. And I actually have a link to this video for you guys to do with your children as well.
Welcome to Elementary Cubby. Today, we're practicing CVC nonsense words. Remember, when reading CVC words, that the vowels always make the short vowel sound. The A will say ah, the E will say eh, the I will say ih, the O will say ah, and the U will say All right, let's get started. Try to say the word correctly before I do.
Okay, let's try it. Kif.
Kif,
How about the next one, guys? Yuck.
yuck,
Okay, so you kind of get the idea. I purposely chose this video because not only does it give your child time to read it or even sound it out if they need to, but the lady afterwards is able to correctly read the word for your child, so that way it self-corrects them. So this video
welcome.
and others are going to be linked in this presentation that I shared with you guys at the beginning of our workshop. That's here under videos. I also included a list of nonsense words that you can have your child practice at home, and it does, as you go through them, get harder. So you'll find that it starts off with short vowels, so like all the short A's, and then it goes to the rest, and then it eventually goes into digraphs, and it gets harder and harder. So that way your child's always being challenged. Something else that you can do with your child is play the change the letter game with a dry erase board or even a tablet and ask if the words they are reading are real or nonsense. So here I'm going to escape out of my presenter view and I can show you what that looks like. So for example, if I write the word him on the board, I could say, okay, honey, can you change the I to an E? And so that will force them to erase this. So that's letter identification practice. Then they replace it and then have them read it. What does it say? Hem. Is hem real or nonsense? Well, hem is actually a real thing. So in that case, it's not a nonsense word. And then you continue the game and ask, okay, now that you got hem, change the E to a U. And what's the new word? Hum. And then ask, is that real or nonsense? This one actually is another real word. I guess let's see if I got another one. How about if we change the U to an O? Then what do we have? Hom. Is a hom real or nonsense? It's nonsense. So that's another game just to change it up a little because kids, they're kind of like us. If you do the same thing over and over again, you're going to get bored. So we want to switch it up just so to keep things interesting. All right, so I'm going to go back into my presentation mode and introduce the next part of our DIBELS assessment that I was going to review, and that is word reading fluency. And this is where students are going to read a list of high frequency words, also known as tricky words. That's our new term using the CKLA program that we are utilizing for English and Language Arts. So here is what that looks like. So as you can see, students are basically given a list of a bunch of different high frequency words, and they have to read as many as they can in a minute. So I'll play just a short snippet for you to see what that looks like.
Please read from this list of words. Start here and go across the page. When I say begin, point to each word and read it the best you can. If you get stuck, I will tell you the word so you can keep reading. Put your finger on the first word. Ready? Begin.
So, they, is, we, it, if, but, the,
So that's what it looks like. So your child will be sitting right next to their teacher, and they'll be reading as many words as they can in a minute.
have,
And now what you can do from home in order to support this is create flashcards of your child's high frequency words. You can just use regular index cards or take a piece of paper and cut it out. Or if I actually have the digital version of all the Dolch words, I believe up to third grade. So if you click on this, it will take you to a forced copy of my slides, and then you can have your child read it. Just go through the slides and click away and then change it up by moving them around like I did with the letters at the beginning of our lesson. That way they see something different each time. So that's one resource for you. Also, to practice their high frequency words, you can have them practice spelling the words or writing them in sentences. You can have them find the words in books or magazines, or play the I Spy game by writing the words on Post-its and sticking them on the wall. I know my boys, when they were little, they loved this because I would take it up a notch. I would put the Post-its of the words on the wall, and then I'd get like a soft ball that they would throw at the word I tell them to throw it at. So for example, I'd say, okay, throw the ball on the word play, and they toss it and they love it. So just trying to make things more fun and interactive. I also included a link to videos that go over high frequency words. You can click on that, or you can play the What's Missing game, which is where you have your child spell the word and then have a line for a missing letter for your child to tell you what letter is missing. So I'm going to show you what that looks like here. So if I take the kindergarten high frequency word C, and then we could spell it together with our child SEE, and then I can have them, I could erase one of them and ask what's missing, and then they'll tell you E, and then you'll show them that it's right. And then I'll erase another letter and then ask them what's missing, and then they'll tell us it's an S. It's just another way to present this word to them just to make it a little more fun. I did this with my kindergarten kids a few years ago when we were online, and they absolutely loved it because they're always curious to see what letter I'm taking away. And they just love getting the answer right because they know how to spell it. So that's another game that you can utilize as well. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go through one more of our DIBELS components. I'm go back to presenter view, and that is the reading fluency and reading comprehension. And that's when students are going to be timed for a minute to see how many words they can read from a selected passage. They will finish reading the passage and answer questions related to it. So for the part where I show you guys what it looks like, I wanted to show you what a fluent first grade reader looks like. And basically, you're going to notice that they are able to read as if they're talking. They're not pausing too much to sound things out. They're just fluently speaking. So here we go.
What does a fluent first grade reader look like? At this age, fluency means reading the words and punctuation more smoothly and at a natural speed. It should sound more like normal speech, normal first grade speech, with a few pauses and not too fast.
George Washington Carver was smart and he was kind. He used what he learned to help people have better lives. The mice are not always safe at night. The owl's big round eyes can see even small mice in the dark. A long time ago, Bear was up and about all year long, and the other animals were not too happy about it.
But remember, understanding matters. So, after reading, check that they understand. Can you show me where the problem is?
The bear keeps knocking over Mouse's house.
So, what to look for by the end of the year? Well, come summer, first graders can read words correctly and somewhat smoothly, and they can read at a natural speed, which means not too fast to get in the way of understanding.
So that is what a fluent first grader would look like. So you notice that they were able to read as if they were talking. I mean, it wasn't really fast and it also wasn't really slow. And the one thing I really, really, really wanted to highlight from the video is the part where they ask comprehension questions. Like, how do you know that this happened? Or why do you think a character did this? Those are questions that you should always make sure you ask as you read with your child, just to support their comprehension skills. So how can I support from home? Make reading a part of your child's daily routine. Have your child read aloud to you too. So when you do your bedtime stories, instead of you always reading, encourage them to read one of their readers to you. So that way they can practice their reading skills. Like I said before, ask your child comprehension questions as you read together. And as promised, I do have a resource for this as well. If you click on that link in the slides I gave you, you'll find that I have a bunch of decodable fluency passages for you to use. You can even keep track of how fast they're able to read, like how many words they can read in a minute. And then there is a table of contents, and it progressively gets harder as you go through. So you can see here all the short vowels, the CVC words are passages 1 through 6, and then they'll start getting into blends and long vowels. So this resource is all for you. All you got to do is click on the link, and it also has comprehension questions. Yay! So you can practice doing comprehension with your students or children. Something that I did have my kids do is when they they answered the question, they highlighted where they found it in the story. For example, what is a cap? It would be a hat, and I would have them highlight this number one in purple, and they would show where in the story right here where they found that answer by coloring that part purple too. So it's giving them a chance to practice citing evidence from the story, which is a skill they're going to need in the higher grades. Okay. Tips on book selection. A lot of parents would ask me, how do I know what books to choose? So here we go. Select books that are at your child's reading level so they feel comfortable reading independently. If you're not sure what reading level they are at, ask your child's teacher and they can definitely give you an idea of what to look for. Be sure to vary the material. Read books, poems, magazines, comic books, and newspapers. We want to make sure your child is exposed to all different kinds of genres. Utilize auditory books on CDs to foster continued vocabulary development and content knowledge. You can also listen to books while they're reading the text because that helps your child maintain their language skills, commensurate with their peers. These are some websites that I listed for you where you can have these audio books for your child so they can listen and follow along. So definitely take a look at those websites. And one more huge tip is to encourage your child to choose the material. It's kind of just like food. Like, if they choose something, they're going to eat it. Same with books. If they choose that book, they're going to read it because it's something that interests them. Okay. Here's just some reading strategies. Make sure you model. Read aloud to your child so you can provide it a good example of fluent reading. Consider reading material that is just beyond grade level. Your child will not only enjoy listening to a good model, but it will also foster that language development and reading comprehension that we strive for. And also be sure to make it fun by using an expressive voice and intonation. I know I love doing read alouds. It was almost like you get to be an actress or an actor as you read the stories, and the kids love it when you really get into it. Partner reading, that's another thing you can do as a parent. That's where you and your child take turns reading. So be sure to select reading material that is at your child's success level. You don't want them to get to that frustration level. And just know you are always, ever since they were born, you are their model for both fluency and personal expression. Here are some more reading strategies. You can do choral reading, and that's when you and your child read together at the same time. You should be slightly ahead for a couple milliseconds of your child, and even though it appears that the reading is happening simultaneously, you're actually leading and your child is following. Choral reading allows your child to build up his sight words as he associates the correct pronunciation with each written word, and the pace should be slow yet fluent for the initial reading. You can also review sight words with your child to increase automaticity, and you can click on this link and it'll bring you back to that list of the Dolch words. And you can just do a few minute drills on those words too. Here are some more reading strategies, repetition. Once you've compiled reading material, encourage your child to reread his favorites. Just like your child has asked you to watch that same Bluey episode over and over again, let them find that book they want you to read over and over again. It's just something for you to have. I mean, if they like it, they like listening to it, totally, I'd say go for it. Read it. The more they read, the more they know, the more they practice, the more they grow. Repeated readings not only improve fluency, but comprehension and using intonation as well. Repeated oral reading significantly improves word recognition and fluency. And remember to practice at a level that your child is already able to decode easily. We want to make sure your child feels confident and comfortable with the text you select. And then, like I said, you also have those Dolch words that I mentioned before. Just remember, reading it takes a lot of effort. So really make sure you keep your child motivated by encouraging and praising them for their strengths and interests in readings. This will build their confidence and maintain their interests. And more importantly, it will add to that already positive relationship that you have with your child. So I'm going to ask you, I know this is a long workshop, but there was just so much information, but I really hope we were able to meet our learning goals. Were you able to gain an understanding of the DIBELS assessment? From this presentation, you should have saw what letter name fluency is, phoneme segmentation fluency, nonsense word fluency, as well as fluency in reading comprehension. And did you learn different ways you can support your child at home for each DIBELS assessment? I know I gave you a whole cornucopia full level of information for you to utilize at home. And I just always feel like the more, the merrier, the more different resources you can pull from, the better. Okay, so just in case you didn't get a link, I'll go ahead and put it in the chat once more. So that way you all have access to the presentation because it has all the resources there. You can also scan this QR code for a copy of this presentation. So that way you can have it and even share it with people who may not have been able to come tonight. I'll also make sure to have a recording of this parent workshop for you guys to review on our website. And now, are there any questions for me? Anyone? I know it's a lot. Questions are always good. Okay, I don't see any in the chat, but if you do eventually realize you have a question, just know that you can reach me by emailing me here at marisal.esperanza@lausd.net. I'll be more than happy to share this presentation and other resources with you. I did want to thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you coming out here on your Monday night. What a way to get the week started. All right, so thank you all again. I am so glad that we had this time together, and I look forward to working with you in our next parent workshop. Thanks so much, and have a good day.